Hello, and welcome back to another special event here on the Total OS Today Technology channel. I have with me a first-time guest. It's awesome to have him here. He is one of the founding members of the Zorin OS Linux distribution. He is part of the Z team, as I like to call him. Or I guess we can say they're Zawesome instead of awesome. Sorry, that was the best I could do. But we have Artyom Zorin here joining us from Dublin, Ireland. The luck of the Irish. And we are lucky to have him here. So Artyom, how are you?
Yeah, I'm great. Thanks for having me on the show. It's a huge honor.
Oh, it's my honor. It's great to have you here. Zorin OS was and still is one of my top 10 possible optional choices for Windows users. Back when I started back in '06, I started with Ubuntu out of curiosity. And pretty much everything I know about Linux is self-taught. Back then, Linux really wasn't ready for prime time or for beginners, as it were. But in 13 years, a lot has changed, and there are wonderful choices for all 1 billion Windows users out there, almost a billion, who may want to try a form of Linux, and Zorin OS is certainly one of them. So if you are watching this as a Windows user, consider checking out Zorin OS. All right, so Zorin has been around 10 years, considering a lot of distros come and go because of, various reasons, resources, time, money. You guys, and this is you and your brother, right?
Yeah.
That started Zorin? Okay, Do you want to give him a quick shout out too?
Yeah, shout out to Kirill, my brother.
Awesome.
Top class engineer. Awesome guy all around.
The Z team. Awesome. Okay, so 10 years of Zorin, how did you guys survive?
Yeah, I think it really boils down to our really clear-cut philosophy behind what we're building with Zorin OS. We're trying to make it so user-friendly that Windows users, Mac users can easily switch over to Linux without having to learn very much at all, but still being able to take advantage of all of the great features that Linux has. So really focusing on the user experience made it a very focused project. And also what really helps as well is that we've kind of deviated a little bit from the norm of what Linux distros typically offer, in that we have both a free edition as well as our paid for Ultimate Edition. And that includes, additional features, more apps and software, as well as support for installing Zorin OS if you need that. And the resources that we've gained from that has really helped us to continue and to grow as a team and as a project.
Wonderful. It makes perfect sense to me. I've always liked the way it looks, and I know you have different versions of Zorin, like you said. You got the Ultimate, there's the Lite. Is there like an education one? Or?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I think it looks great. There are some who might say, well, why should I use something that reminds you of Windows? Well, then you can customize Linux, but the point is, personally, I will recommend anything that's stable. If it works, it works. Why not try it? So when you and your brother started this, was it one of those things, because this is going back 10 years, was it because you guys were kind of like ahead of your time? So was this something that you said, hey, it's time for a Windows alternative, or you just did it for fun, or you wanted to do something special for the community, or was it a combination of those things?
It was a little bit of everything, actually. Back then, it was the summer of 2008, and we first tried out Ubuntu on our computer, and we really loved it. We thought it was amazing. Like, we thought everyone should have access to such a cool and advantageous desktop experience. But then when we showed it to our dad, who was just like a regular computer user, we found out pretty quickly that it wasn't quite ready for the general public.
Yeah.
There's some aspects of it that were difficult to use, and we kind of saw this as an opportunity that we could make a Linux distribution that has all the advantages of Linux, but also is so familiar and user-friendly that anyone can pick it up and not have to learn anything. Right. And we got a lot of help from our dad in how to strategize what we're building, giving us advice on, what's the right functionality, what are the right features to implement, and how to do it, how to design it. And actually, at the time, my brother and I were in school, and we submitted as a project to a science fair, a national science fair here in Ireland. And that's pretty much how we got our start with Zorin Os.
Okay, that's a wonderful story. When did you guys feel that things were going your way? Like, when do you think you hit your stride, your groove, as it were? Was it a few years later? Was it last month, last year? When did you guys think that you had something special here?
I mean, there isn't a specific point in time when we realized that. Like, even from the first time when we even released the beta of Zorin OS 1.0, we got a bunch of like really helpful comments and people who really loved it. And we saw that, hey, this is actually, it was pretty small scale at that time, but we saw that it was picking up. You know, people were really loving it. And we knew that there was something there. So we just decided to continue on.
So it was basically feedback from the community that made you think, hey, there's something special here. It makes sense. What made you pick the GNOME desktop as the main desktop? I know when way back in 2011 when Ubuntu went from their GNOME 2 to Unity, there was some controversy. When we switched from GNOME 2 to the now GNOME 3, there was a lot of controversy. And I remember as a Windows user somewhat laughing at it because I believe Linus Torvalds, the father of Linux, he called the latest GNOME an unholy mess. And I thought to myself, well, come on, as a Windows user, that's not fair. I don't think it's unholy, but no, it was definitely a transition. I think GNOME desktop looks terrific. It looks slick. I wish it was a little bit faster, but it is getting less resource hungry as time goes on. But what made you pick that as the main desktop, say, versus Mate or XFCE?
Yeah, so when we first started off, GNOME was pretty much the default choice around everywhere, and it was definitely the most user-friendly at that point in time. When GNOME 3 first came out, there were an awful lot of missing features. A lot of functionality just wasn't there, so we actually decided to make our own desktop environment during that transition that used the AWN dock as the panel, but using some GNOME technologies as well. But when we released Zorin OS 12 back in 2016, we actually made the switch to GNOME Shell, like proper, because we saw that it has matured a lot since GNOME 3 first came out.
Yeah,
there were some missing features, some desktop elements that we had to develop ourselves, like the taskbar, the start menu, which did take us some time. But all in all, I think the parity between what GNOME have built, the focus on design that they have for their applications, is really, I would say it's really world class. It really is designed to be simple, user-friendly, gets to the point, and especially the design focus that they've had in recent years has been, really leading in Linux. Obviously, there's some elements of the desktop which aren't perfect in vanilla GNOME, but we've spent a lot of time working on, the desktop extensions to make it really user-friendly. So I think that focus on design is what makes GNOME really stand out.
Okay.
Even now.
Yeah, I've tested various releases of GNOME, and one of the frustrations for me is, okay, like I want to make this my own. So I'll try to install specific customized extensions to make it customized, and that doesn't work. That's broken, or there's a bug there, or my system's running slow. It was kind of like, okay, well, let me try. It was kind of like time consuming, and I didn't like that. Now it is getting better. What I noticed about your system is you have some extensions installed, customized to make it more user-friendly, and that's what I was looking for. That's why I can recommend your system to a new user, because it's not a, what's the word? It's not a shock to the system, like especially someone who's brand new. And I think your version of the GNOME Shell, at least in the Ultimate Edition, is all the extensions I was looking for, that I don't have to guess if they're going to work if I was to install them. You guys have pre-debugged it tested and ready for the release. So that's wonderful. But as I stated in the past with various versions of Ubuntu or something else based on GNOME, is always the extensions. Oh, that's not updated, or this may not work, and that was kind of frustrating. And I'm not a newbie anymore, so I can imagine for a beginner trying to make it their own that an extension might break the system. That's why I think Zorin is at least one of a perfect example of the GNOME desktop with a few modifications. How many total extensions did you guys put in the system?
Off the top of my head, I think they're around in the region of 10 or 12 that we've either developed from scratch or are maintaining and helping the upstream developers.
It's funny because I remember doing a live event of Ubuntu, a previous version, and I think I said, okay, well, if I was going to make this my own, how many extensions would I want? Not necessarily need, but how many extensions would I want? And I think it was about 10. So there you go. So check out Zorin OS. Now, if you have an older machine that's somewhat limited on resources, and I do believe a Linux distro with the GNOME desktop, you really need at least 4 gigs of RAM to make it run as smoothly as possible. However, if you have an older machine, it's maybe a dual core or not a lot of RAM, you still make a light edition. Yes?
Yeah.
Okay. And that's designed, say, let's say somebody has maybe 2 or 3 gigs of RAM, it should be fine as far as I know, right?
Yeah, it's designed to work even as low as half a gig of RAM, so some pretty old computers are supported with it. It uses the XFC desktop for that. Right.
Okay. I don't think I would recommend having a half a gig of RAM, or gig of RAM. Yeah, I would say at least 2 gig of board, you should be okay. All right, so what are Windows users saying about Zorin OS?
Yeah, so we've gotten a lot of feedback throughout the years, and especially from Windows users. And what we've heard is that, a lot of people who were interested in Linux were distro hopping between, say, Ubuntu, Mint, Fedora.
Yeah.
They found that they never could really get their niche. They could never really get used to Linux. And when they came across Zorin OS, it was kind of an aha moment for them. They could make the switch over to Linux without having to, learn a whole lot of new things, experience, paper cuts essentially when they're using the system. Yeah. Because that is how we designed the system. We wanted to make it as smooth of a transition as possible. And then we sometimes even get comments saying, I installed it on my grandma's computer and she didn't even notice the change except her computer is running faster. So, that's some really good feedback that we're really happy to hear.
Awesome. Yeah. We've been talking about a possible, how do we get those almost billion Windows users to try Linux, to come on over? Maybe it might work for you, maybe or not. That's certainly a fair statement. So how do we get them to, hey, come over here, come over on this side of the pool, it's warmer, So this year, I concluded that we really need, at least here in the States, some sort of a national Linux type of machine. Something that's been pre-tested, pre-debugged, and it could be, honestly, it could be based on anything as long as it works. It could be based on Ubuntu, it could be based on Gentoo, Arch, whatever, as long as it works. I have my first Chromebook, I believe it's based off of Gentoo. Wow, that thing, I flip open the lid and log in, it's like 10 seconds. It's wonderful. That's based off of Gentoo, off of Linux. That is a standard. That is a quality Linux standard that works out of the box. A new user would not have to go into the terminal to download a deb file or something and fix this or that. It just works out of the box for what they do. Mainly web-based applications, but that's starting to change. You can now do things offline. You can now install Linux apps if you choose to. Of course, you got the Chrome store, Chrome Web Store, now the Android, Android is on there, and I believe on the higher end machines you can dual boot Windows if you so choose to. I'm not sure why you would want to do that on a Chromebook. But So we debated this year that we should have some kind of a national Linux standard based on anything, but it has to work because how do you get the Windows users to come on over? So, I did earlier this year, I did about 5 live Ubuntu shows. I figure, well, since my first date, as it were, with Linux was with Ubuntu, maybe we'll have Ubuntu as a national standard. So I did 5 shows. The feedback was, I would say, 99% positive on at least a national standard, if not based solely on Ubuntu. So I figure I'll do the 5 shows, then I'll wait for any feedback and maybe pick up a sponsor here and there or whatever. I have to tell you, aside from the community, which is a world-class community, the feedback from sponsors was crickets. I heard nothing. And I have come to find that in general, companies, except for Google, they have no interest in making a Linux desktop because they just don't see the profit or the potential profit in something like that. And I totally get it, because part of it is, okay, which one do we pick because of the fragmentation? Even Linus Torvalds did an interview, I think it was late last year, and he was frustrated after 25 years of the amount of fragmentation, and we still don't have some kind of a quality standard. Even though freedom is good to have choices, but having a so-called national computer based on Linux, to me, would add to the freedom, not take it away, because that gives a beginner a choice to choose either something that's not, quote, a standard, or choose a standard. So I think, to me personally, it doesn't take away from the freedom of choice, but it adds to it. Now, I know you guys are coming out with the Zorin machines, laptops, right?
Yeah, so we're partnering
Yeah.
actually with computer manufacturers
Yeah.
to have Zorin OS preloaded on the computers.
Okay. And when can consumers expect this?
Yeah, actually, we've earlier last month we partnered with a company called Star Labs in the
Ah.
UK. They're our first partner, and you can actually go ahead and buy them right now.
Oh, right now.
And
Okay.
yeah, it's on our website. There's a computers page where you can look at all of the different computer manufacturers. At the moment, it's Star Labs, and we actually just launched with another manufacturer in the Netherlands just today. That are doing laptops as well, preloaded with Zorin OS. And we're expecting even more manufacturers to come on board.
Awesome. Awesome. Because yeah, I was thinking that a sweet spot price for a Linux-based machine, at least here in the States, would be about $400. And I think yours, one of those, starts around that price. If I'm not
Yeah.
mistaken, like 420, 419. Well, there you go. See, everybody, well, not everybody. Some people thought I was nuts. Well, there you go. There's one right here. And I'll have a link to the Zorin OS website down in the show notes once I finalize this recording. That's awesome. So now the Zorin machine, that's based on an LTS,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So that's at
LTS
least
release.
5 year support.
Hmm.
Okay. Now, when that 5 years expires, can the person do an upgrade, or is it not advisable, or will you offer paid support beyond that, or how does that work?
Yeah, so we're actually now working on an upgrade mechanism so that you can upgrade from one release to a future release of
Okay.
Zorin OS just
Okay.
directly.
Mm.
We're going to be launching it later this year. So people who are using Zorin OS 12 right now can update to Zorin OS 15, and then we're going to be using that upgrade mechanism in the future. So yeah.
Nice. So a person who buys the machine now, what kind of warranty would be on the actual hardware?
It depends on the manufacturer. I believe the Star Labs warranty is 2 years, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
So yeah, it's provided by the manufacturer.
Nice. Okay. Are Windows users, is there any feedback from Windows users about these things yet, or is it still too early?
It's still in the pre-order stage for that laptop, so
Okay.
I don't think there have been any shipments
Okay.
made yet. But we have gotten a lot of excitement over the fact that they're going to be computers with Sonos pre-installed.
I think that's wonderful. Yeah. When are the first shipments expected to be released? Do you know?
I believe it's in the next couple of weeks.
Nice.
I'll need to check with the
Oh, yeah.
Star
Okay.
Labs and the manufacturers, but yeah, they should be coming out soon.
All right. So there are 2 laptops. All right.
There are two laptops currently, and then with the new manufacturer that we launched today, there are three of them that are listed on our website.
Awesome. Awesome. I don't know about the UK customer or they're in Ireland overseas, but here in the States, I think American consumers, even though they do a lot of online shopping, when it's something completely new, I think they would prefer to walk into a store. I know I would. Let's say I knew nothing about Linux and somebody mentioned Zorin OS or Ubuntu. Hey, try this. Well, before I try, I want to go check it out, touchy-feely. So here in the States, it would be nice to walk into a store to buy a Linux-based machine, to try it out, talk to the person who's knowledgeable, such as buying a Chromebook, you know. But that's why I was thinking here in the States, I think the product, now this is generally speaking, I think the Linux product has to be in a physical brick and mortar store, a store, so the customer can walk in, talk to someone knowledgeable, what's the difference between this and you know, like a Windows machine, how faster is this? What can I use with it? What can I not do with Linux? Is that how it is over there, or people there really don't mind ordering it online versus into a store, or maybe it's mixed?
I think it's mixed over here.
Okay.
I mean, there's a lot more of an appetite for buying products just online,
Yeah.
and you know, trying it out at home. But I definitely think that makes your argument makes a lot of sense, and it's something that we would like to work towards. We do know that, especially in the case of brick and mortar stores,
Yeah.
they tend to be a bit more risk averse. You know, they're larger. You know, things move slower with them.
Yeah.
And that has been a bit of a chicken and egg problem for the Linux community and Linux distributions at large. Manufacturers and, you know, big box retailers, they want to ship, you know, products that they know will sell. And so taking a bit of a risk on something that, you know, isn't as well known is a bit less likely. But you know, with these steps that we're taking to getting the first manufacturers on board, we want to make that, you know, we want to step up that ladder and hopefully get to that point.
It makes sense.
In the near future. Yeah.
I'd have to say that earlier this year, I think I saw something, because there's a lot of people who enjoy Windows 10 who don't have issues, and I guess a lot of the issues have been some of the updates crash the system or do something wonky. Our friend Stephanie last night, she mentioned months ago that she has a Dell machine that when she does Windows 10 updates, it crashes, it removes or crashes her video drivers. I've never heard of that, so she keeps reinstalling the video drivers and she can't seem to get a straight answer. But I read this year that Windows 7 usage, not Windows 10 only, but Windows 7 usage went up.
Oh, wow.
You would think it would go down because, you know, by the end of the year, bye-bye Windows 7. But it went up. And that told me that I think Windows users are begging for an alternative like Linux that's not, you know, $1,000, $2,000, you know. And there are companies, well, there's one company here in the States, I think System 76, that has pretty good machines and pretty good service. But now we're talking in the MacBook price range, and we already have that. We don't need a Linux Mac machine, or we don't need another one, you know. But I think Windows 7 or Windows users are just begging for an alternative, and not just the Chromebook. You know, Chromebooks are fine. I have it. And I got to tell you, I have several ThinkPads that I use to test Linux. I don't use them as much anymore. I go straight to my Chromebook as far as portability, because open the lid, log in, boom, I'm on. And it does the updates in the background. It's out of your way. There are no bugs that I've seen. I mean, flawless. And when's the last time somebody anywhere in the world can say, hey, my Linux download or my Linux machine was flawless? You don't hear it that often. There's usually, well, I had to fix this or a little bug here or something here. You know, but it's gotten better, a lot better. But with the Chromebook, I think Google nailed it. And of all the things, they picked Gentoo, which is not a beginner-friendly type of system, you know. But they pre-tested it like you guys have in your system, and it just works. But yeah, getting back to my point, Windows 7, I think, are begging for an alternative that, just works. That's reasonably priced. I think the one machine at $400 is great. Now these machines, as you go up in price, they're faster, great for gaming. What's the best one that you guys have to offer?
Yeah, so the higher end Star Labs one is, has Core i7 processor,
Okay. Yeah.
8 gigs of RAM, really fast SSD. So it's really built for productivity, and it's really thin and light. So kind of
Okay.
a productivity champion that's really thin
Awesome.
and an ultrabook essentially. And of course, working with different manufacturers who are, doing gaming computers, who are doing, like netbook style ones, even tablets coming up later this year.
Okay.
So a
Yeah.
wide range of hardware.
Awesome. Now, our friend Stephanie said now she uses Mac more or less exclusively because of what she does, singer-songwriting specific software. But she doesn't like the Mac because there's not enough inputs, like not enough jacks to
Hmm.
plug things in. Will your machines have enough, USBs and ports and all that, or do they have to buy adapters or something else?
Yeah, again, it's a wide range of hardware, so you're going to
Okay.
have laptops with a huge amount of ports on them. That's what people really are looking for, and
Okay.
that's what the manufacturers are building.
Cool. Cool. Um, Let me just say finally, what's the future of Zorin OS? How do you see you guys next year, 5 years from now? How do you guys feel about it?
Yeah, we're really excited about the future. In fact, later this year, we're going to have a really big new direction that we're going into. So back in 2016, there was a city in Italy, Vicenza. They switched over from Windows XP to
Yeah.
Zorin OS.
Yeah.
And we learned a lot from that transition. They were really happy with it. Um, and we were thinking when that happened, how could we take this further? How could we get, even more organizations, businesses, governments, schools as well to make the switch to Zorin OS and to Linux? And coupled with the fact that, Windows 7 support is ending in January, we're really trying
Yeah.
to take it forward. So later this year, we're going to be launching a new product for organizations where they can link all the computers that they're running with Zorin OS together and really easily manage and deploy them. And we think that this new tool is going to, really change a lot of things for the Linux desktop at large, making it really simple for organizations to make that switch over. So the goal really is to make, Zorin OS and Linux as easy to manage as Chromebooks have been, which is why they've become so popular, especially like in schools. You just set them and forget about it. And we want to make that kind of easy management possible with Linux, and
Wow.
help the people who help the organizations as well who are stuck on Windows 7. They would prefer not to go to Windows 10 because of course, all the issues that it's been having. Um, but still have a computing experience that's simple and just works for their users.
An Italian Linux, mamma mia, that's terrific. Who would have thought? I actually have relatives who live in Italy. I think Germany tried, but then they switched back to Windows.
Yeah, there was Munich, and
That's it. Yeah, yeah.
it looks like, in fairness, the Linux deployment was pretty successful, but then there
Uh,
were some political angles to it
yeah,
because
I,
right after
mm,
that decision, Microsoft announced that they were going to move their, I think, German headquarters to
I'm
Munich,
sure just
and yeah,
coincidence, just one of those things in the end.
yeah.
Yeah, right. My friend Stephanie, who works over there doing her shows and stuff, I asked her what did the Germans think about Linux, and they said, well, they generally like their, to be a little more private, and I guess some of them use Ubuntu, but they like their choices there. But yeah, that was unusual timing on that part. But hey, Germany's loss, I guess, is Italy's gain. I don't know. Um, RDM, that's all I have in terms of questions. Like I said, I'll have a link for the website below in the show notes if you want to check out Zorin. Which are the free versions again for this system for
Yeah,
Zorin?
so we have the Core Edition,
Okay.
It's our standard one with the GNOME desktop, as well as the Lite and Education editions.
Okay. Wonderful. Okay. So again, if you have an older system, check out the Lite, which is based off of XFCE, right? And these are all the LTS versions?
Yeah.
Five,
So
five,
we're going to
okay.
be releasing Zorin OS 15 Lite later this summer.
Okay. Cool. All right. Well, that's all I have. Check out Zorin OS. It still is a terrific operating system, Linux-based, if you are new to the world of Linux, or even if you are not, because to me, from what I tested, it looks great. It just works. So what more can you ask for? So again, check out the links below in the show notes. All right. Well, I want to thank Artyom for joining me for this terrifically informative interview. Look for the Zorin machines to come out soon. I think they're going to be fine. So again, Artyom, thank you. Thanks your brother too, as being part of the Z team. Looking forward to what future news comes out of the Zorin team. So I will end this conversation now, but I want to say a few things to Artyom in private here. But if you have any questions, just post them in the comments down below. If you guys would like to see a follow-up interview, maybe after the machines get shipped, that we get some feedback, we can certainly schedule that one of these weekends. So, Artyom, thank you again. Do you have any closing comments?
Yeah, I just want to say thank you so much for having me on the show and for telling the people about Zorin OS for all the years. You've been here pretty much since the beginning. So I really want to thank you for everything that you've done to spread the word.
Thank you, and big thanks to the world-class community. It really is a world-class community on this channel that I do. I've had quite a few people tell me that they've been to other communities or forums to ask for help, and they were not treated. What's the word? They were not treated user-friendly, as it were. So this channel, I guess, has become somewhat of a safe haven. Has become a gateway, like your system, for Windows users, as it were. Happy to do it. So thank you, Artyom. Okay, that's it for this one, guys, and I'll catch you on the next one. So I'll just say arrivederci.